Good afternoon. See, I didn't say good
It's
morning.
different.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Good afternoon, Joy 1340 listeners. I am Officer Ralph McClain, the Milwaukee Police Department recruiter, working out of the Office of Community Relations, Engagement, and Recruitment. And I'm here with my illustrious co-host.
Yes, sir. My name is Jordan Dickerson. I am one of the recruiters with the City of Milwaukee Fire and Police Commission, and we're back here with episode 21 of The Conversation.
Episode 21.
We keep rolling along with it.
That means we're grown now.
Pretty much. Right.
That's great. That's great. Hey, and I do want to mention, like we mentioned before, each and every show, that if you feel the need to have a career change or even start a career, uh, law enforcement is a noble way of waking up each and every morning or going out in the evening, or in some cases late at night,
Yep.
to be out there protecting this great community of ours. So we are hiring. The application is posted at the City of Milwaukee website, and Jordan here has a number that will be beneficial for people to take note of if you're interested.
Yeah, so like my amazing co-host says, if you ever thought about, joining a police force and just kind of want to actually put your foot out there and help make a change in the community and do something great for your community, you can actually text this number if you have any questions at all. It's 414-519-6190. Again, that's 414-519-6190. Like I said, you can text that number. Myself and the recruiter, we will respond to it, and never even don't self-disqualify yourself. I was actually talking to somebody today. He's like, "Oh yeah, man, I think I'm too old." He's like, "Yeah, I'm 35." I said, 35? Man, we just had somebody who was 50, 55 years old graduate the academy not too long ago.
I know you must have said, "Hey, you must not know my co-host."
No, I didn't throw you under the bus like that. I wasn't throwing no jabs.
Yeah,
But yeah. So yeah, feel free to text that number if you have any questions at all, and we will respond to you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, today's show, ladies and gentlemen, is a great show. I'm already putting it out there, Jordan, as we do many of times, that this may end up having to have somewhere down the line a part two.
Okay, you already putting it out there.
As we say, I'm already knowing.
Okay.
So today's show, I would like to welcome. We have Judge Derek Mosley. So Judge Mosley graduated from Marquette University Law School in 1995. After graduation, he served as an assistant district attorney for Milwaukee County from 1995 to 2002. As an assistant district attorney, he represented the state of Wisconsin in over 1,000 criminal prosecutions. Wow. In 2002, Mr. Mosley was appointed to municipal court, to the municipal court as a judge in Milwaukee. At the time of his appointment, he was the youngest African American to be appointed judge in the state of Wisconsin.
That's amazing.
Let me say that again. All right. At the time of his appointment, he was the youngest African American to be appointed judge in the state of Wisconsin. I think that that bears saying again, because in light of today being the date of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, so I thought that was apropos to mention that again. For 10 years, Mr. Mosley served as the chief judge of Milwaukee Municipal Court. In 2023, Mr. Mosley became the director of Lubar Center for Public Policy Research and Civic Education at Marquette University Law School. He has been a lecturer at both Marquette University Law School as well as University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and sits on the Supreme Court of Wisconsin's Judicial Education Committee. He routinely speaks both nationally and internationally about unconscious bias and Black history. Also, as a kidney transplant recipient, he is an ardent supporter of Donate Life Wisconsin, the National Kidney Foundation. He currently serves as a Donate Life Hollywood advisor, I should say, to television and movie industries. And then also, Judge Mosley is a local Milwaukee foodie as well.
Foodie, okay. Yeah.
And served as a 2022 James Beard Judge for the James Beard Foundation. He sits on many boards, including Safe and Sound, YMCA, the Urban Ecology Center, and has received is the recipient of numerous awards. He is entrenched in the community of Milwaukee as a person that has dedicated his life to service, and we would like to welcome to our program Judge Derek Mosley. How you doing,
Hello.
Welcome.
Wow, that intro. Man, it's been a long time since I heard the whole intro.
We are so glad to have you here. Hey, and this is what I'm going to do. We're going to like throw an audible here,
Let's
like
do
we
it.
often do. Judge Mosley, I'm
Yep.
going to throw out some numbers here, some addresses. I'm going to see if any of these ring a bell, and you tell me what they conjure up in your mind when I
Okay.
say this, sir. All right. So if I was to say 3259 East 95th Street, what does that bring up in your mind?
Oh boy, 3259 West 95th Street.
East.
East 95th.
Yep, 3259
Not
East
East.
95th.
What is on 95th? Well, Chicago comes to mind.
Okay, there you
Yep.
go. You're on the song.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
okay.
Um,
Close to Stony Island, maybe.
yeah, it was really close to Stony Island. I was 87th in Stony. Yep.
So what restaurant would you think? Maybe around
That wasn't, what's the name of that place? It's been so long. I want to say Queen of Soul, but I don't think it's Queen of Soul.
Have you heard of Calumet Fisheries?
Yeah, oh my God, the salmon place? Man, dude, hold on, let's talk about Calumet fishing for a minute.
Okay.
The best salmon, shrimp. Man, dude, you know they just redid that whole building.
Okay, yeah.
Did you know they
I didn't know they redid.
yes, they tore it down and built a brand new building.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
Did it? Because I think it caught on fire.
it did.
Yeah. Okay.
It did.
Okay.
Oh man, that place.
Okay.
Is this some Chicago stuff that I don't know about?
Well, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Wow.
Yeah, you'll enjoy this.
Ah, okay.
You brought
Okay.
that back, man.
Yeah,
Calumet Fishery.
You'll enjoy
Okay.
this. So, okay, another one. All right. If I was to say, now this is going to be really difficult, so I want to give you a little bit extra help with this. 2775 North Elston Avenue.
Oh, I don't know what's on Elston.
Okay.
What's
So-
on Elston?
So if I was to say Maxwell and Halster Street.
Oh man.
Okay. all
Man,
right.
come on, man.
I thought that would work out.
Yes. Oh, so everybody's got a memory, right? So my memory of Maxwell Street is grill, flat iron grill, a pile of onions, that butter sauce on top of it while that cooks, pork chop sandwiches on the left, Polishes on the right. Man, do you remember that?
I remember that.
Man, so let me tell you also about that. I got I had. This is a cop show. I can't be talking about bootleg watches and mixtapes and everything else.
Oh man, this is off the record.
But yeah. No, I knew that was gonna go throw up some memories there.
So my dad, we used to go down there all the time, like over Christmas, because like right before school started, you wanted to have like that. You know, that fresh Gucci watch. For me growing up, it was Gucci.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, oh, you gotta have that Gucci watch. And I couldn't afford a Gucci watch. And so we would go down to Maxwell Street and we like, how much for that Gucci watch?
Yes, sir.
You guys would negotiate.
Yes, sir.
Man,
Yes, sir.
Gucci's, mixtapes, purses. Well, I mean, they had
Just all of it.
all of it.
Yeah,
all
'cause
of
it
it.
may say a certain price.
Yeah.
But, well,
Oh, yeah. Nothing was the price.
yeah.
Okay.
it may be
Nothing was the
negotiable.
price.
Oh, yeah,
It may be
you could
negotiable.
talk it down anything.
It may be.
Oh, to anything. Man.
Okay, this is the other one. All right, so 206 South Jefferson.
206 South Jefferson. What's at 206 South Jefferson?
Other than my second home when I was in Chicago, when I was a young man,
Mhm.
Where?
my second home, the warehouse.
Oh, see. Oh, man, come on. Come on now.
Okay.
All right, so.
All right.
Frankie.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
You know anything about Frankie Knuckles?
Nah. Not
What?
Not at all.
Oh,
He don't know. You know,
man, the warehouse.
poor soul. One day I'll introduce him to.
But see, that's a Chicago thing, right? Because so right now, House is actually having this like reconnaissance,
Kind of a resurgence.
renaissance, and everybody's like, "Oh, House, man!" I was listening to House, man. Do you remember BMX?
Oh yeah, look. There goes my final.
that was the final
I had
one?
my final one. I was
Oh.
going to say, what does the numbers 102?
102.7
Yes.
WBMX.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah, baby. Oh,
He completed the list.
yeah. Oh, yes. 102.7.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Farley Jackmaster Funk.
Oh,
That's
Farley.
when he was called Farley Funkin' Keith.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Man, oh, now you got me one. Man, I'm gonna get in my car, throw in the little Marshall Jefferson. Man, it's on now.
I want my listeners to realize how they just isolate the Milwaukeeans over here. They all just talking about Chicago stuff. No, I ain't gonna know nothing about this.
So
I'm gonna have to experience this. I'm gonna have to check it out sometime.
may have to check it out.
So the Warehouse was a club which was the birth of house music.
Okay.
I mean, that is where it started. That's where, and it got its name because people would say, oh, because as a new kind of, is that rhythm beat over and over and over again, right? And then you have some like sultry vocals over it sometimes, and so people were like, oh, that music that they play at the Warehouse. That and that's how it became house music. That music from the Warehouse.
Right.
Yep.
A lot of the disco back from the 70s, they would take and they would put what we would call a 4-on-the-floor beat to it, and do that, and they would experiment with drum machines and keyboards and have you, and it just created a whole little genre which actually branched off into a whole bunch of little subgenres of house music, because there were different acid
house
and all kinds of stuff.
Check.
You gotta go down memory lane.
Oh man!
So how was it, Judge, during that time? All right, growing up in Chicago, how was that for you?
So it was great. So my dad went to Mount Carmel.
Okay.
And wanted me to go to Mount Carmel.
All right.
And I didn't want to go to all boys school, even though Mount Carmel was like a perennial powerhouse in football when I was growing up. And so I wound up going to Marian Catholic in Chicago Heights.
Okay, all right.
And we held our own. I remember Chicago, it was a different place. I mean, I think of my life growing up as a kid and my kids and how I am with them and how my parents were with me.
Yes, sir.
So I was a latchkey kid.
Okay.
Right, so I would come home. I had a key around my neck. I would wear it for school, unlock the door, go into the house, and I would never leave the house again. I mean, that's how it was until my mom and dad came home.
Okay.
And my dad worked for Illinois Bell.
Oh, okay.
And so he was always, late at night, call, boom, he's gone. He's out climbing some pole, getting everything ready. So, I have nothing but positive memories. So I lived in an apartment. We lived in an apartment, an upper.
Okay.
And until my dad got transferred, and because I don't know if you remember, the Bells broke up.
Yes.
All the Bells broke up.
Right.
And he had a choice to either essentially lose his job, or go to AT&T.
Okay.
And so he went to AT&T. When he went to AT&T, that's where we started getting a little bit more money than we had before, and that's why they shipped me out to the suburbs to go to high school. Which was Chicago. I've had nothing but positive. My cousin David Tate played for the Bears, so I would always have Bears tickets. It was I'm a South Side kid, so I'm a Sox fan. I hate the Cubs, but man, I just remember going. I remember going to the old Comiskey, sitting out in right field, and pulling that string, and it was a shower head in right field, and it's hot days, and you would just pull. You just pull that string and the water would just drench you.
Wow.
I mean, can you imagine being soaking wet at a baseball game? But as a kid, you loved it.
The only way I was familiar with Comiskey Park, and I was more familiar with the White Sox than the Cubs, was because in school, if you had perfect attention,
You got tickets.
the Comiskey
Really?
White Sox give kids
Tickets for perfect attendance at school. Yep.
Yeah.
I remember.
That's
Yes,
cool.
it was really cool. And the thing about Comiskey that people don't understand, Comiskey started all of that. So when you hit a home run and the fireworks shot out, that was first done at Comiskey Park.
Okay.
Bill Veck started that.
Yeah.
And now when you go to American Family Field and you can sit ground level. And you can sit outside in where they hit home runs in right and left field. You can sit ground level and see the field. That was from the original Comiskey. Comiskey, that was a picnic area. So when I grew up, my mom used to make sandwiches and put them inside those cardboard containers from McDonald's. You remember them? Remember used to come in?
Yeah.
And so she would put a sandwich inside those cardboard containers, and we would go into the stadium with lunch because we couldn't afford to eat the concessions. And there were picnic tables out in right field. And you would sit out in right field, and it was like a gate so you could see the field, and we would eat and watch the game in your ground level. It was a game changer, man. It was. Game changer.
Wow. Now, how was that? So you were Chicago born. How was it coming over to Milwaukee?
Yeah.
What made you decide on Milwaukee as being your home?
Yeah. So and it's really weird when you grow up in Chicago. for me at least, to me, like anything like north of Halstead is Wisconsin anyway, right? But you know, I didn't know a whole lot about Wisconsin. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. I'd never been there. Didn't know. To me, Wisconsin could have been in California. It was that far away. When you're a kid, you don't think about it. But I went to Marquette.
Okay. Yep.
And if you go to Catholic school in Chicago, a lot of people from Catholic school in Chicago go to Catholic college. It's like, so Marquette, Notre Dame, like there's a big pipeline for those schools. So I went to Marquette and just kind of fell in love with Milwaukee. You know, it was sort of reminded me a lot of Chicago, but without all the drama. I know people here always say, oh, Milwaukee's all this drama.
Yeah.
And, you know, every place has some drama.
Exactly.
But it ain't that kind of drama, right? And it was, you know, I just fell in love with this place. Met my wife in law school, and yeah, it's his home now.
Who were some of the influential figures, Judge, growing up, when you were growing up? Like, either talk to you, kept you on the straight and narrow, whether it be parents or it was teachers? Who were some of those people?
Yeah, so when I was growing up, and my number one person I wanted to be growing up was Harold Washington.
Harold Washington.
Yeah. So, in fact, this memory is burned into my psyche. It's Thanksgiving. We're all sitting around for Thanksgiving, and we get word that Harold Washington passed.
Right.
And we're at the Thanksgiving table, and no one's saying a word. I mean, people are eating, but no one's talking. This Thanksgiving, normally people are talking. It did something to the city. Do you remember that?
I remember it. Harold Washington's Chicago's first African American.
Okay.
Mayor.
Okay,
Yeah.
got you.
Yep.
I remember it.
And when he became mayor, it was, I mean, you thought we had won the lotto or something. I mean, people were so happy. I was just so proud to see this black man running the city, because at the time, Chicago was probably the second largest city in America at that time.
Yeah, I remember being a sophomore at that time, so I remember that vividly.
Yeah, and you know, people say stuff. Oh, I remember where Kennedy was shot. I remember like all these. So that predates me. But Harold Washington was something that I'll never forget that. Another thing, I used to not tell this story, but I tell it all the time now to students at Marquette, the law school. The first black lawyer I had ever seen in my life was Blair Underwood. Blair Underwood played this character. He was an actor. He played this character named Jonathan Rollins on a show called L.A. Law.
L.A. Law.
Remember L.A. Law?
Yeah, I remember it.
And so he was the first black lawyer I had ever seen. And I fell in love. I'm like, man, black people could be lawyers, right? Because where I grew up, there were no lawyers. And so when I saw him, I was like, I could be a lawyer. Now I wanted to be a lawyer for all the wrong reasons, right?
Okay.
I mean, Blair Underwood, he had all the women. He had this house on the beach in L.A. You know, I was like, oh, I want to. He drove this BMW. I'm like, oh, I want to be that. But that was the catalyst behind me wanting to go to law school.
Okay.
So this is crazy. Let me just real quick. And so I started college, and I was like, I think we'll go to law school. But then a movie came out called Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
And it was Jodie Foster, and it was about Hannibal Lecter and the FBI. And I was like, oh man, you know what? I think I want to go around and try to catch serial killers, right? Because that's how they build it. So I applied for an internship with the FBI. And I got it. Wow. And it was in D.C., so I worked at the Hoover Building.
Okay.
I lived in Alexandria, and then just take the train into D.C. every morning. And I was like, this is what I want to do. And so after I did the internship, they said, are you still interested in the FBI? I'm like, yes. And they're like, okay, well, there's two ways to get into the FBI. You either have to have law enforcement experience, you either have to have military experience, or go to law school. So once again, it was law school again. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to law school. So it's great. Remember, I told you I was a latchkey kid. So when you're a latchkey kid, I was raised by TV. I'm going to be honest with you. I was raised by TV. People laugh when I tell them this, but I honestly thought that JJ, Michael, Florida, and James Evans lived down the street from me. Because Good Times took place in Chicago. Yeah. And I was like, I swear to God, I saw them on the L one day.
My neighbor. Oh, man, that's hilarious. But I want to speak to that. You know, you're saying that was the first, black lawyer that you've seen. But you yourself, like I said, was the first black judge appointed at the time in Wisconsin.
Youngest.
Right? Youngest.
Not the first, the youngest.
Youngest. Speak about just as like, did that come with pressure? Did you feel that pressure at all?
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, one, generally the judicial career. So when I was coming up as a DA, you would normally do your full legal career, and then people would become judges after they've been lawyers for 20, 25 years. Mm-hmm. And then they would do that for another 10, 15 years, and then retire as a judge. That was it. Most of the judges were, but I became a judge at 31. Mm-hmm. So I was the youngest judge by a long shot. Right. And so it was scarier than it was a lot of pressure, but I had no peers, right? My peers were 20 years older than I was, right? So you're 31, you're still like, hey, 31, right? And I was single, I was like, ooh, 30. But it's different, right? It's different. And so it was lonely, really. Right. Yeah, because you were in another area, another position of status.
How did you manage that? Like being that lonely, knowing that you were the youngest and like your peers are all older and you didn't really have those people who you could kind of relate to. Like, hey, bro, like, you know, usually when you got a job, you could like talk to your other friends and they could kind of like,
hey, let's go get a drink after work. Or let's, I didn't have that.
Yeah, so how did you manage that?
Yeah, so I kind of just threw myself into the community. And that's how I became so engaged in this community. Okay. You know, I said, I got to meet people more my age, and the place where there were all these people my age was the YMCA, mm-hmm. right? Everybody who worked at the YMCA at that time were around my age. You know, they were young. This is their first like professional job, and so I've been with the Y ever since. I've been with them over 20-some years as a member of the board on the YMCA. But yeah, I would do that. I would find those groups of people. And I came from a DA. I was a DA before I became a judge. And so I had already had all these relationships with a bunch of other people my age, cops. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of my friends were cops. Because when you're a DA, the cops and the DAs, I mean, cops come in, they give me a report. We sit and talk about this case. And then after we finish the case, we just sit and talk, right? Yeah. And so you become friends with everybody. And so a lot of my friends were cops and, you know, people who worked at nonprofits. But the problem with that is you gotta be careful when you're a judge, right? Mm-hmm. Because when people see you like, oh, I see this judge is just out there hanging out with the cops. He ain't gonna listen to anything we have to say, right? Yep. So it's different. But those are my peers, because my real peers, the judges, were so much older than I was. Yeah.
When it comes to community collaboration, what drew you into that? I mean, because here you have your law degree. You're the youngest African American judge at the time appointed. What drew you into the community aspect of it?
Yeah, so that actually started before I became a judge. So when I was in the DA's office, I started a program, and it's still going today, called the Community Prosecution Unit. Yeah. Okay, so I started that unit. Okay. And so, and just if you're not aware of the unit, basically, when you're a DA, you go down to the district attorney's office, and you sit in the office, police come, give you a police report, you look at it, see if there's a crime committed, issue out charges, and that's what you do all day, right? But the Community Prosecution Unit took DAs from the office downtown and put us in district stations. So the first office I was in I was at District 5 on 4th and Locust. Mm-hmm. And so we had an office at District 5, we had an office in Harambe, the Harambe neighborhood, and we had an office in the Williamsburg Heights neighborhood, which was one just west of Harambe. And I got to meet everybody. So we wanted to work on like street drug dealing. Mm-hmm. And the residents were like, we got to do something about the street drug dealing, blah, blah, blah. So to gain trust of people, I bought a pager. And I'm dating myself, right? so I bought a pager, and I gave them the pager, and I said, if you need me, just page me any hour of the day. And so they tried me. They're going to try me. They're like, okay, we're going to page to see if you're going to. And so they page at 1, 2, 3 a.m. Mm-hmm. And I'd pick up I call right back. Yeah, you paged me? Wow. This is Assistant District Attorney Mosley. You paid me? I'm like, you're for real. This is true. And I'm like, yeah, this is true. So we started this program called Operation Street Sweeper. And they would do that. There was a unit of officers who would, they weren't really assigned, didn't have a squad area. They were able to just patrol that whole district. Mm-hmm. And the neighbors would text me. I worked 4 to midnight. So I would put on a bulletproof vest, and I'd get in the squad and ride with the officers from 4 to midnight every night. Mm-hmm. And if you're an officer, after 4 o'clock, the city changes a little bit.
It changes a little bit,
right? And so people would page me all night long. And I'd say, hey, just got a page from so-and-so and so-and-so. We got to go to so. And squads would go over there, and we just find people. People were shocked. The people who were drug dealing like, where y'all come from? Because they figured everybody is either going to be asleep and not going to bother them while they're doing this, or they're too scared to do anything. But the fact that they knew they had somebody they can trust, and it was amazing, to the point where we put a DA in every district station at one point. There was one in all 7 districts. It was amazing.
Wow. I want to talk about something real quick. And since we spoke about elections, you know how it kind of just passed, and you're like, okay, I'm not on there. You don't have to worry about it at all. But if I want to be honest and open, and I'm not the type of person who, I don't dive a lot into like the politics and really knowing the information out there. And sometimes, obviously, and I'll always be humble and admit, like, that can be ignorant, right? It can be ignorant just because, like, you don't know a lot of stuff, so I decide not to vote sometimes, right?
Yep.
Even when it comes to those, like, big major elections and everything, like, I had a conversation with my mom. I'm like, hey, listen, I don't know if I'm going to vote. One, because I couldn't trust either side, you know, and I didn't really have that feel for either side. And her big thing was, you know, well, pick, like, the one you kind of agree with the most. Real quick, for someone out there who's like me, who kind of struggles with voting and understanding, like, you know, you have to pick some type of side, but you don't really fall underneath 2 of them. Speak to that aspect of it and why it's kind of important.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that's a great question. All right, so I thought it was my generation that was the generation that never had to fight for anything. But your generation that comes after me, y'all really didn't have to fight for nothing, right? And so I say that for a reason, because probably when I was your age, I probably was in that same camp, right? That, I don't know why I'm voting, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. But if you research our history as black people in America, and the sacrifices that our ancestors did, so we had the right to fight. So my mom said something to me that I will never, ever forget. She's like, you stand here today, alive, doing what you're doing, because somewhere back in the past, someone slaved from sun up to sundown, but kept surviving every day, despite over 246 years of it. Someone in our family kept getting up every morning and picking cotton. Every morning. They hated it, they ran away, they got beat, but they kept doing it so you could sit on that bench. That's what she said, and that resonated with me. But when you're young, you don't think about that, right? You don't think about all the people that came before you, because, like I said, at my generation, I'm Gen X, right? We didn't have to fight for nothing. We had everything we got, right? And so you guys behind me, millennials and Ys and Zs and everything else, alphas, y'all didn't have to fight for anything, so you don't think about it. So here's how I look at it. So growing up in Chicago's a different place. It's a different place in the sense that, and this is a true story, people laugh when I say this, I didn't even know there were Republicans until I went to college. Because if you live in Chicago, you had never seen a Republican, because everything's Democratic. Everything's Democratic. So you just didn't think about it. So my mom used to always say to me, you should research the party where the people who look most like you are, who could symbolize, look like you can relate to. And so I was like, okay, let me just, because I didn't know. I was like, who should I vote for? I don't know who I'm going to vote for. And so I like to look at parties that speak to me as my group, right? So and so that's how that all shook out for me. But here's the voting piece, right? I was the youngest African American because I was appointed initially to get that position. Now, the thing about being a black elected official in the city of Milwaukee is that there are a lot of people who look like me who don't vote, right? Yeah. And people are like, wow, we can't, there's nothing in Milwaukee. We ain't got no black, nobody, blah, blah, blah. And then my next question was, hey, did you vote? No, I didn't vote. And I'm just sitting back, so we would do all these programs on the bench when I was on the bench. Like, try to help people with the driver's licenses, help them lift warrants so they can get jobs, all this stuff, right? And bend over backwards. And all I ask is for one day, you come out and you say, hey, I really appreciated what that brother did. I'm going to vote for him to keep his job. And we couldn't do that, right? And so that's what I say. You're not voting for just you. You're voting for all those generations before you that got up from sun up to sundown, and slaved picking cotton so that you and I can sit across from each other, right? How much cotton have you picked in your life?
Not at all.
Right, right? And that's my point, right? And we take all that for granted. And I don't know. That's why voting is important. It's important because it affects us all. We can make change, and not to mention the fact, young folks, and especially young folks, and people for the first time in the history of this country, people of color are the majority.
Mm-hmm.
Black and brown
Yeah.
together are the majority. We are the global majority, and so it's important. It's really important. I mean, I never thought we'd have a black mayor.
Yeah.
We got a black county exec. We got a black police chief. We got a black sheriff.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, when I first came here, none of that was true. Right? And so that all comes because people say, you know what, we're going to vote. It's our
Gotta
time.
step out
It's
there,
our
yeah.
turn.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Judge Mosley,
Yeah.
thank you, sir. I want to say that. First of all,
Yeah.
for just coming by and having this conversation with us. We really, really are honored. We appreciate it. I told you I was going to put it out there already because we could spend another hour talking about the aspect of food.
Oh,
and how
yeah.
that plays a
Yeah,
part
yeah, yeah.
in us
Yeah.
coming together and talking about things that would better us in this community, how food relates to that. So we can.
We got to have a part two.
Whole nother segment.
We got to have a part two. 'Cause, I mean, I want to talk about the Lubar Center and all the things that we're doing. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you got me going with Chicago house music and Maxwell Street. We got.
Yeah.
Y'all gotta get out here with all this Chicago talk now. But
Thank you to our
I appreciate
listeners.
it.
We appreciate it. Thank you, Judge Mosley. And we will talk to you next week.
yes, y'all have a good one out there. God bless.
God bless.